action, right? And in that sense, what happens is that the art becomes part of the organizing. I believe that as artists, it's our responsibility to create a vision of where we're trying to go, and really to push people to think about the steps they can take to achieve social justice, right? Whether that means where you shop, who you support, what schools you send your kids to, what are the demands that we're asking of the U.S. government. And this piece is around divestment, because one thing is that a lot of organizers who are saying, you know, how do we support Palestine? How do we put an end? The United States is the biggest supporter to the Israeli military. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much money we give to them. And so how do we support a divestment movement like we did for South Africa, right? And how can we push for that, since that seems to be one of the only ways that we can kind of have a voice, is really using our pocketbooks to make decisions. And so this piece is around boycotting companies such as, you know, Starbucks, Victoria's Secret, Burger King, all these companies that support the Zionist entity.
Wow.
This piece, globalization. Now, one thing that I found really interesting kind of growing up and being in especially in the Chicano rights movement and the Latino organizing movement, is that I think maybe 8 years ago, a lot of the dialogue that was happening in our communities was around the things that were directly affecting us, right? And that was gangs, drugs, schools that didn't serve us, the prison system, immigration. But what we were not necessarily looking at, not until WTO, was how globalization was affecting all of us. And that globalization, in the end, was the root cause of some of everything from immigration to what we were eating, to why more money was going to corporate America than was going to public services. So in 2003, a big group of Chicano organizers went to Cancun, Mexico, and that's where the World Trade Organization was meeting. And at that time, there was an activist, a Korean farmer, and his name was Kwang Hao Lee. I don't know if you remember the story of Kwang Hao Lee. He was the one who stood in front of the line at where the delegates were meeting, and he stabbed himself in protest of the WTO policies, and he killed himself. Oh. And what he was saying is that, he said, you know, these agribusiness is closing so many farms, is like really driving small farmers out of business, that we are losing our way of life. They are killing our way of life. And I was so touched by what he did, by what Kwang Hao Lee did, that I felt we have to, it's our responsibility as artists to really document this part of our history. Who are our freedom fighters of today? And you know, in the kind of the farming industry, one of the reasons I became a food activist was after really understanding what Kwang Hao Lee was fighting for. And that's that every 30 minutes, 3 to 4 farms is closing in the world because of agribusiness and the shift to a more privatized way of food production, which if you get a chance to read Fast Food Nation and understand how fast food companies and large food companies, agribusiness, are totally shifting the way we produce our food, from everything from using genetically modified GMOs, organisms, to really how they're treating animals, all these things. And so this piece was around saying it's time for us to fight the WTO, and farmers are going to smash the WTO.